Welcome to today's Catholic Daily Readings from Christus Dominus Bread of Life. A reading from the book of Judges. And all the men of Shechem gathered together, and all the families of the city of Millo, and they went and appointed Abimelech as king beside the oak that stood at Shechem. And when this had been reported to Jotham, he went and stood at the top of Mount Gerizim. And lifting up his voice, he cried out and said, "Listen to me, men of Shechem, so that God may listen to you." The trees went to anoint a king over themselves, and they said to the olive tree, "Reign over us." And it responded, "How could I abandon my fatness, which both gods and men make use of, and depart to be promoted among the trees?" And the trees said to the fig tree, "Come and accept royal power over us." And it responded to them, "How could I abandon my sweetness and my very sweet fruits, and depart to be promoted among the other trees?" And the trees said to the vine, "Come and reign over us." And it responded to them, "How could I abandon my wine, which gives joy to both gods and men, and be promoted among the other trees?" But all the trees said to the bramble, "Come and reign over us." And it responded to them, "If you would appoint me as king, come and rest under my shadow. But if you are not willing, let fire go forth from the bramble, and let it devour the cedars of Lebanon."
Strength, the King is glad.
O Lord, in your strength the King is glad. In your victory how greatly he rejoices.
You have granted him his heart's desire. You refuse not the wish of his lips. Lord, in your strength the King is glad.
For you welcomed him with goodly blessings. You placed on his head a crown of pure gold.
He asked life of you. You gave him length of days forever and ever. Lord, in your strength the King is glad.
Great is his glory in your victory. Majesty and splendor you conferred upon him.
You made him a blessing forever. You gladdened him with the joy of your face. Lord, in your strength the King is glad.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. For the kingdom of heaven is like the father of a family, who went out in the early morning to hire workers for his vineyard. And having made an agreement with the workers for 1 denarius per day, he sent them into his vineyard. And going out about the 3rd hour, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And he said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and I will give you whatever is just." So they went forth. Again he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour, and he did similarly. Yet truly, about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing, and he said to them, "Why have you stood here idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You also go into my vineyard." And when evening had arrived, the lord of the vineyard said to his manager, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning from the last even to the first." And so, when those who had arrived about the 11th hour came forward, each received a denarius. Then when the first arrived, they considered that they would receive more, but they also received 1 denarius each. And upon receiving it, they murmured against the father of the family, saying, "These last have worked for 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the weight of the day and the heat." But he, responding to one of them, said, "Friend, I caused you no injury. Did you not agree with me to 1 denarius? Take what is yours and go. But it is my will to give to this last, just as I have also given to you. And is it not lawful for me to do what I will, or is your eye wicked, because I am good? So then the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. For many are called, but few are chosen." Join us for today's reflection. Your daughter comes home from school upset because she wasn't chosen as team captain despite having the best grades and most experience. "It's not fair," she says. Sarah gets everything handed to her. That evening, Sarah's mom calls to thank you. Apparently, your daughter spent recess helping Sarah with math instead of campaigning for captain, and Sarah nominated her for the position because she's the one who actually helps people instead of just talking about it. That's exactly the upside-down kingdom Jesus describes in today's parable of the vineyard workers. The last hired received the same wage as those who worked all day, and the owner's generosity exposes the worker's sense of entitlement. But this isn't really a story about labor relations or fair wages. It's about the kind of leadership God honors versus the kind the world expects. This connects perfectly with today's memorial of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, one of history's most influential leaders who revolutionized monasticism not by seeking power but by embodying service. Born into nobility, Bernard could have pursued worldly advancement. Instead, at 22, he persuaded 30 other noblemen to join him in entering the austere Cistercian monastery at Cîteaux, seeking the most demanding form of religious life available. The reading from Judges offers a stark contrast. Jotham's parable about the trees seeking a king reveals how authentic leadership often comes from unexpected sources. The olive tree, fig tree, and grapevine all refuse to be king because they're too busy producing fruit that benefits others. Only the thorn bush, which produces nothing useful, eagerly accepts the crown. This is a devastating critique of power-seeking leadership versus fruitful service. Bernard became abbot of Clairvaux at 25, not because he campaigned for position, but because his authenticity and wisdom were undeniable. Under his leadership, the Cistercian order grew from a handful of monasteries to 343 across Europe. Kings, popes, and emperors sought his counsel not because he pursued political influence, but because his life demonstrated the principles he taught. The psalm speaks of a king finding strength in the Lord, receiving blessings, and honor through divine favor rather than human manipulation. This perfectly describes Bernard's approach to leadership. He never sought titles or positions. They came to him because people recognized someone who led by serving rather than being served. Jesus' vineyard parable turns all human expectations about fairness and merit upside down. The workers who labored all day in the heat expect more compensation than those hired at the last hour. Their complaint seems reasonable from a human perspective. Equal pay for unequal work violates basic fairness principles, but the landowner's response reveals that God's kingdom operates by grace, not merit. This is precisely what made Bernard such an effective leader. He understood that spiritual authority comes from proximity to God, not accumulation of credentials. His most influential writings focus on humility, love, and contemplation rather than power structures or political strategy. He advised popes and kings not because he sought worldly influence, but because his life radiated divine wisdom. The workers' resentment in the parable mirrors our own struggles with God's generosity toward others. We want grace for ourselves, but justice for everyone else. We celebrate mercy when we receive it, but complain about unfairness when others benefit from it. The full-day workers reveal how easily we slip from gratitude for our opportunities into entitlement about our rewards. Bernard faced this same temptation constantly. As his influence grew, he could have leveraged his position for personal comfort or political advantage. Instead, he maintained the austere lifestyle of Clairvaux, continued his practices of prayer and manual labor, and used his influence to call others to holiness rather than securing benefits for himself. The thornbush in Jotham's fable represents leaders who offer nothing but demand everything. They promise to provide shade, but instead threaten to burn everything down if they don't get their way. This type of leadership destroys rather than builds, takes rather than gives, and rules through fear rather than inspiration. Saint Bernard exemplified the opposite approach. His leadership produced abundant fruit, spiritual renewal across Europe, theological writings that still influence Christian thought, and countless individuals called to deeper faith. He achieved this not by grasping for power, but by serving so authentically that authority naturally flowed to him. The landowner's generosity in the parable reveals God's heart toward all of us. Whether we've been serving faithfully for decades or just started following Christ, we all receive the same fundamental gift: relationship with God, forgiveness of sins, and eternal life. Our complaints about this arrangement reveal how quickly we forget that everything we have is grace, not wage. This is the leadership lesson Bernard teaches us. True authority comes from understanding that we're all recipients of undeserved grace. When we lead from this perspective, we serve others with humility rather than demanding they serve us with honor. We work for their flourishing rather than our advancement. We find our strength in God's approval rather than human applause. The question isn't whether you have official leadership positions. The question is whether you laid like a thorn bush or like a fruit tree, whether you serve like a first-hour worker demanding recognition or like someone grateful for any opportunity to participate in God's vineyard. Saint Bernard shows us that the most lasting influence comes from those who seek first to serve rather than to be served.